guys, welcome back to Strong Successful Male. So for today, I'm going to go on an email that was sent from a subscriber. That's from a guy, sounds like he's in his mid-50s, he's from over in the UK, and he's writing in because he really needs our help on a situation with his daughter. You're going to see how before his daughter was born, when he met her mother, everything seemed cool, even though I could see things were not cool from the get-go. And then the daughter was born. That's when things started going downhill, as things usually do when kids are born. And then eventually they break up, and that is when the evil begins. That's when her true colors really come out. And because he's able to move on from her to other women, then she decides that it's time to hit him where it hurts the most, his relationship with his kid. And has done everything she could to poison the situation. It is an unfortunate freaking mess. However, our guy here is doing what he can. He's staying strong, but he needs your help. My help, your help, everyone's help in the situation, how things ought to progress further, as well as a lesson about how, guys, you can meet a girl, think she's amazing, show all these qualities, and like that can change and unleash the Kraken on you and turn it. I call the woman Medusa in this story because it's quite warranted, and you're going to see that. There is lots of important lessons in this story and why you must spend a lot of time with your girl getting to know her, but also with a trust but verify attitude, and also with the mindset of being aware of any potential red flags and things like that. And if you see any of them, run. And of course, how they can change like that. And some gals just go freaking psycho. It's unbelievable in ways that guys just can't comprehend. And they don't care who they hurt. They want to get revenge on you for whatever thing you did to slight them. It's unreal. So this is something a lot of guys need to be aware of if you're going to get married, if you're going to have kids, and just the things that can be done to hurt a father with regards to the kid. Because you know, as many of you do, the state always, wherever you live, ideally wants to have the kid with the mother. And she gets all the benefits and all that. It's much more difficult than the father. And she uses it against the father. And it's a darn shame. So this is a long one, as you can see. Oh, and by the way, this is very long. This is a two-parter. So part one's right now. Part two will be 2 hours later, I promise. No longer than that, so you can get it done before all the election craziness of tonight starts. But anyhow, so it's worth your time. And even though it's a long story, this guy definitely needs our help. And hopefully you guys can give us some pieces of information that have been through this type of crap. Maybe we can help him out where things are right now. So I appreciate you definitely chiming into this one and commenting away. He says, "Hi SSM. As a subscriber and avid watcher of your videos, I decided to finally put a finger to the keyboard after watching your video. My wife cheated and divorced me and turned my daughter against me. Now they want me in their lives. Nope. As much as this account resonated deeply with my own situation." Well, man, it's obviously similar to that video. "I know I'm going to receive your bitch slap several times, but be that as it may, I realize that I deserve them. Sadly, with my own situation, there is no happy ending as of yet. And like your own comments in the above situation, I'd probably reject any attempt for reconciliation now, as far too much water has flown under the bridge." Well, we're going to go through your story here, and it's a long one, and this is one a lot of guys can learn from, and we're all going to chime in the comment section about that, so you're going to be heard, my man. So let's begin at the beginning. It is 2002. Whoa, okay, we're going back 22 years here, guys. "And I've been chatting with a gal on a car internet forum. She was blonde, pretty, super intelligent, a professor at a large pharma company, with her own house and her own car, etc. For the sake of the story, we will call her Gemma. Well, you can call her Gemma. I'm going to appropriately call her Medusa. And if you guys don't know who Medusa is, pause the video, Google it. No, pause the video, smack yourself for not knowing some Greek mythology here. Then Google Medusa, and you'll see what I'm talking about, because it's quite warranted here. At this time, I was 33 years old, and when we finally agreed to meet up in the flesh, I discovered that she was actually a lot older than she looked. 9 years older than me. At least she made no attempt to deceive me in that regard. Oh joy, you got yourself a woman in her 40s, and you're 33. It should be the other way around, dude. Not saying you can have good-looking girls in their 40s, plenty of good-looking ones, but I think you get my point. And she's a professor, which means a whole lot of education, and I respect anybody making something of themselves in this world, don't get me wrong. A lot of sharp gals out there, But a professor level, usually at these Ethnist indoctrination centers, that ain't too good. And you all know what I'm talking about here. And you're going to see I'm right. In fact, she looked that good when we ended up back at her place on a later occasion. I actually asked if she would show me her passport. I still couldn't quite believe that she was 42 years old. Anyway, we went out on a few dates, and over the coming weeks, as things started to get a bit more serious, we started chatting about becoming exclusive. Where she then told me that she felt that I need to understand that if I wanted to have children, then unfortunately it would not be possible with her, as she was infertile, and was the reason she used to use us as why she had never been married nor had kids. Maybe the reason she never got married or had kids is because, well, Medusa's about to let her snakes come out of her freaking hair pretty soon. As I too had never been married or didn't have any kids, this was not a red flag to me at the time. The story seemed to fit her circumstances. Although I wanted kids, eventually I still felt that for me, at 33, this was still a few years away anyway, and at this stage was far too early in the relationship for me to consider this with her. Although she did suggest that hypothetically we could adopt if it came to that. At the time, being the trusting, naive person that I was, I respected the fact that she had been honest with me. Well, sadly, they pick and choose the truths they give you. I'm sure many of you can already see what is coming. But as she couldn't have any kids, when the relationship progressed to the next stage, we didn't see the need for using protection. I don't care what she says. You always wear protection. Yes, it feels better not wearing it. We all know this. Well, most of you know this. But wear your protection. Provide your protection. Dispose your protection. Don't believe that I'm on the pill crap or I can't have kids, because suddenly the Lord can make a miracle. You never know. Then, just 9 weeks later, during a lovemaking session, she told me that she had something to tell me. What could that be? Yep, you guessed it. She was pregnant. So, 9 years older, a professor. And we know what that means. And she said she couldn't have kids. Oh, never mind. The Lord had a plan. Now you're trapped. At the time, although somewhat surprised, I can remember feeling over the moon. I felt like she was a real catch, everything you could want in a woman, and also at 33, I guess I was really old enough to settle down. Hey, you know what? To each their own. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder. If that was a catch to you at that age, that's your business, but I sure as hell wouldn't see that as a catch. Obviously, in hindsight, I realize now that I was baby-trapped, but at the time, I was far too naive and trusting, especially if someone I had only just met and didn't really know any background to, other than what she told me. Obviously, nowadays, I'm far less being at the same opinion as Hugh Laurie's character in House, that everyone lies. And instead of trust until proven otherwise, that has changed to trust but can constantly verify. President Reagan, trust but verify. I think of that every day. The pregnancy was pretty uneventful, and we rented a house near where I worked, whilst hers sold, so that we could pool our resources and buy a house together. As some further background info, during the 9 weeks before we knew she was pregnant, she got made redundant from her job at the pharma company, where she received a huge redundancy payout and then almost immediately got headhunted by another biotech company, where she also got a substantial golden handshake to become the associate vice president. However, after 6 to 7 months there, a patent expired on one of their high-value products, where their shares plummeted, and they felt as the result they had to make several redundancies. At which, her being the last one in, she was the one first to go. Well, if the patent was going to expire, couldn't people seen this coming and sold their shares before the patent expired and the stock tanked? Unless her shares were locked up for a certain period of time. I don't know. Despite them not needing to, they were very generous with her severance package, not only giving her 6 months' pay, but also a large number of shares in the company as compensation, although it was stated practically worthless at the time. Give her some toilet paper. Towards the end of the pregnancy, things took a turn, as she was overdue and subsequent tests showed that she was suffering from I can't pronounce the fucking thing, but it was a problem. Things that happen to women over 40. In the end, Medusa had to be induced, and although Katie was born somewhat underweight, she is a beautiful, healthy child. Well, congratulations, Papa. Little Katie. After the birth, Medusa suffered a bit of postnatal depression, but other than that, everything seemed honky-dory. During the following months, Medusa sold her house, which she made a significant profit on, having bought a beautiful 15th century cottage that she spent several years renovating on her own. Another reason why I was attracted to her so much. She was one of those few women that could get stuck into and do almost anything. Okay, she was a jack of all trades, and she was like a fucking MacGyver and all that, and while it's to be respected, people like that sometimes tend to have giant egos and think everything's about them and their way of the highway. In other words, narcissists. 12 months were spent in the rented property while we were looking for our together home. And we finally found a house that we both liked, which allowed us to move out of the rented accommodation and into our own home. As mentioned before, she had done very well financially from the sale of her house, the redundancy, the golden handshake, as well as having significant savings. So she was able to purchase her half of the house with cash. I had not been so wise with my money, having spent all mine on cars and other hobbies over the years, and so I had to get a mortgage for my half of the property. Smack! Well, you should have been smarter with your money. Now, granted, she had 9 more years ahead of you and obviously making damn more money, so it was easier for her to put money away, and assuming invest and all that, but still, you should have been better with your money. Sometime after Katie was born, Medusa got another job for a brain disorder charity, where she was the scientific advisor. This could be done from home and suited her being able to look after Katie as well. She did have regular visits to the office, but between myself and my parents, we made it work, and once old enough, Katie was able to go to nursery, where she was everyone's favorite child, as when all the other youngsters slept in the afternoon, she'd never take a nap during the day, so would be wide awake playing, and had all the nursery staff undivided attention. With both of us earning a good wage, it enabled us to split everything financially down the middle, and this meant that we each had a significant amount of disposable income. As we both like cars, we both able to indulge in this passion. Despite having Katie, we never married, both retained our separate bank accounts, and when we bought the house, she, thankfully, had the hindsight to draw up a contract that if we separated, the house would be sold and money split between us, either one could buy the other out. Well, thank God you didn't marry her. And again, smack, with all the extra money, you've been putting it away, which you're going to see, guys. You should have not just necessarily just saving an account that's giving you piss poor returns and interest, but just investing it in areas. But hindsight's 20/20. For the first 4 years together, everything seemed okay. Normal arguments over normal things, but as Medusa got older, the physical side of our relationship got less and less until it became completely non-existent. Here we go. This is how it works. She ropes you in, has the kid, and all of a sudden, nope, not hooking up anymore. And he said the first 4 years together was okay. Life's got to be better than okay. True colors are coming out. The snakes are coming out of her fucking head. However, our daughter was the light of her lives, beautiful, sassy like her mum, funny, and a real pleasure to be around. Christmas and birthdays were some of my best memories, teaching her to ride a bike, playing on the trampoline together, hide and seek, all the normal things that make parents go all mushy when recollecting. From the age of 4 years old until Medusa and I separated, I would read a story to Katie every night before she went to bed. Even when she could read on her own, she would still either prefer me to read it to her or she'd read it to me. The only time this would not happen is if I was away or if it was late from an event or she had already fallen asleep on the journey home. So I felt our bond was really strong. Man, if I had kids, they'd probably want me to read every night. I'd be like, kids, I read shit for a living. No. But you know me, if I had kids, I'd probably read them all the time. But the problem is I'd be reading stories to kids and I'd have to watch all the fucking F-bombs I'd be dropping accidentally and, the Three Little Pigs or something like that, or smacking somebody in these dumbass fairy tales. Anyway, unfortunately, with no physical intimacy in my relationship with Medusa, this became completely stale, and over the next 7 years, I just used to being celibate. You didn't get any for 7 years? Oh my God. Obviously, you weren't cheating on her, and I respect that. Not that you want to tap her, given how I know this goes, but 7 years? Jesus. And you weren't married. I didn't question it and assume that this was the result of having a girlfriend, that was 9 years older, as well as believing is to be the stereotypical norm of what happens to you when you have kids. That's bullshit. I know people that, even though they shouldn't talk about their marriage, people that are married, that they still hook up quite regularly. It ain't easy with kids, of course. It's fucking kids all over the place, and you're tired and exhausted, but People do it that are still attracted to each other and have a healthy thing going. He says, sadly, I just became intimate with my four-fingered friend. I don't want to hear that, dude. God's sakes. We know what was going on behind the scenes for you to have release. There's nothing to really report over the subsequent years, other than one red flag. I think around 2012, when she had to go to a meeting in Manchester, some 3 hours away, and had to arrange a night to stay over, she asked if it was okay for her to arrange to stay with an old university friend, to which I naturally agreed, and she then let on it was a guy and he was an ex. Oh, hell no. You're obviously together. I mean, you're not married, but you're together, and you haven't hooked up in 7 years. Why the hell did you stay with her? I know it's because your daughter, and I respect that, but if your needs aren't being met, and what does that communicate to her? This guy's a pushover. He's weak. I can do whatever I want with him. Miss Superior Professor. Women don't respect weakness. I mean, you know that. And now she's going to go off staff in a hotel with an old ex? Are you fucking kidding me? What do you think's going on? If she ain't getting it from you, she's getting it someplace else. Unless she's truly asexual or something, and clearly the past shows that wasn't the case. As it was almost 30 years ago, and he had allegedly been the one to end it, plus the fact that she was now in her 50s and been going through menopause and lost interest in sex for several years, I wasn't that concerned. If he's the one that ended it with her, remember, women, they can't take rejection. Either they hate you forever, or they carry a torch for you forever. So clearly she's meeting up with this guy. She's probably deep down carried a torch for him forever. And since probably getting his validation is important to her, I'm willing to bet you something was, servicing that guy that night. Again, in hindsight, I could have been all bullshit and contrived, as I never met him. Dude, given how the story goes, I wouldn't trust anything Medusa says. All I knew is that from what I had been told, all her relationships had been ended by the other party. As reading between the lines, they found her too much hard work, I guess another red flag, but being a strong character myself, her attitude never fazed me. It was a once-off and never repeated. In 2013, I made the mistake of buying a car without consulting her. She was so upset by this that she moved out of the marital bed into one of the spare bedrooms. As if this was some sort of punishment, bearing in mind that we hadn't been in a sexless relationship for 7 years, I found it amusing that she felt this was something that could be conceived as a punishment. If you're both making your own money, you do well for yourself. If you want to buy a car with your money, you can buy a car with your fucking money. How many guys here are married and you make your own money? Are you going to ask your wife permission to buy that truck you want? Or that sports car? As long as you can afford it, of course? No. You're not asking permission. I think not. Come on here. As a further sign of her displeasure at my purchase, she also even refused to go into that particular car, which didn't make much difference as we had several others anyway. She even persuaded our daughter, which was a sign of things to come, to not go in it as well. Okay, she's going down the fucking crazy route here. But I think this is all just an excuse to lead up to what this is going to lead up to. The bitch is mental. An asshole. I mean, all sorts of things here. During this year, I met up with an old female friend from school for a drink. This was not done behind her back. She was told about it, and as at the time, I thought it was just going to be a catch-up, as she was married with 3 kids, and although I was in a loveless relationship, there was no plans to cheat. Obviously, Medusa couldn't really say anything against it, after I'd allowed her to see and even have a stay overnight with an ex the year before. Well, as bad as marriages may be, the guy shouldn't be talking and hanging out with other chicks, and the wife shouldn't be hanging out and talking to other dudes. When things get bad, it's time to look for an exit strategy. You should have been looking for an exit strategy a long time ago. Because guess what? You split up anyway. Right, my friend? Look how you robbed yourself of. But I know you did it for your daughter, and I can't understand that because I'm not a parent, but, I know enough about myself that I wouldn't stand for this shit so long. No fucking way. As a bit of background here, Anna, this is the chick he's friends with, was 4 years younger than me and was a friend from school's younger sister. We never properly dated, although there was an attraction. She was with someone on and off, as her parents didn't like me, and her brother definitely didn't want me dating his sister. Oh, you were the bad boy, huh? So in the off times that we did hook up, it never lasted, as she was always pressured to go back to her boyfriend, which really pissed me off. Eventually, I got fed up with her not being able to make her own decisions and moved on. This was only for a few months into my early 20s, so not a significant amount of time. The meetup with Anna went really well. We had a great laugh, but it did make me realize what was lacking in my own relationship. I don't know, love, support, kindness, and I don't know, sex. Where I finally realized I wasn't really happy with what I had with Medusa, and I stayed in touch, messaging over the subsequent months. Well, shouldn't be talking to other chicks, but in this situation, this is the exit strategy, fine. I just think you didn't know it was an exit strategy at the time. You should have been seeing a lawyer, finding out your options with regards to the child support and the custody and the house and all that. It's just an ugly situation. Eventually, after several months of messaging, where I got the impression that there was still a spark between us, I asked Anna if our circumstances were different. What did she think would have happened? It was within days of this email that Medusa out of the blue suggested that we go our separate ways. That is not a coincidence. Clearly Medusa was reading your email or something. We could all see this coming. And you know what? It was bound to happen. Whether or not she'd been monitoring the emails on my iPad, I'm not sure. She had access to it, as I felt no reason to hide anything, blah, 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 blah. I think from her surprised reaction that she was expecting me to beg and plead to stay in the relationship. But by this time, I felt it had truly run its course, and now almost in my early 40s. I had wanted the chance to be with someone who wanted to be with me in all aspects, so when I jumped in and agreed to immediately instead of fighting, I could tell it wasn't the response that she was either wanting or expecting. Yeah, she didn't expect you to do cartwheels over this whole thing. Yeah, the professor bitch wanted you to, beg a bit, act surprised. You're like, woohoo. Truth is, you should have been the leader and ended it a long time ago. But then we can debate and argue about, you'd have less time with the daughter and all that. Despite this, we amicably agreed that she would buy me out, which was able to again do with cash. Remember, those worthless shares I mentioned that she was given earlier as part of her severance package? Well, now some 10 years later, they were worth the equivalent of $400,000, and although the house value had gone up around a third over the same period, she could comfortably afford to cash in what she needed to buy me out. That's why you hold on to the stock. You never know what's going to happen. Despite the house holding fond memories of Katie growing up, I was relieved that Medusa wanted to do this, as I certainly didn't have the resources to buy her out, nor did I want to. The house was surrounded by a particularly large piece of land, which was extremely time-consuming and upkeep, requiring hours upon hours each weekend being spent on top of it from being overgrown. Some people enjoy that kind of thing, but I wasn't a keen gardener. It was a tie I was keen on losing. With only 18 months left on the mortgage for my share of the property, this meant that I was left with a substantial down payment and clearing all my debts. Although I didn't want a house with a large garden again, I did want something that still had enough bedrooms for Katie to come by and stay, and still friends sleep over like she already did. So already you're planning not for your happiness, but for the daughter. So I pushed things financially to ensure I can maintain an environment as close to what she did as possible. I believe that by doing this, her life would change as little as possible. Well, that's what good parents try to do. They want to make it that things aren't so tough on the kid, but, wait till you see what happens here. So to give you an idea of the timeline here, I bought the car in March 2013, met Anna for drinks in April, May, and Medusa and I decided to part ways in November 2013. As it was coming up to Christmas, we decided not to spoil this for Katie and have one final Christmas together. That's good. I found a house in December, but nothing was said to Katie until New Year's Eve, and I completed on the purchase in February 2014. We'd agreed that we would sit Katie down, tell her that together that we were splitting up, but that turned to rat shit when I came home one night to find that Medusa had already told Katie without my presence. Oh my God, what an asshole. Already she's making the chess moves to screw you over. She's controlling the narrative. You're trying to be the good guy and wait. Nope. Already she's planting the seeds of doubt in your daughter's head. And I think your daughter is, 12 years old at this point? Becoming a teen where emotions are all over the goddamn place? I was understandably angry at Medusa for this, as I had no idea exactly what had been said, nor could I gauge Katie's reaction to the split, not having seen her being told face to face. Medusa also refused to give me any real details of the discussion, and I obviously felt it inappropriate to glean the conversation contents from Katie, after what must have already been a traumatic situation. However, at the time, she seemed okay, naturally a bit more introspective and clingy, wanting lots of cuddles from me, but this was understandable and the only signs I could really pick up on. Of course, I assured her how much we both loved her and we would always be there for her. Well, that's good, Dad. In February, once I got the keys of my new home, I gradually, over a period of several days, moved my stuff over. At this stage, there was no animosity, no hysterics. Everything was as smooth as you could wish for in a breakup to be. We both kept our own cars, belongings, and finances, and the only difficulty being that I had to leave behind the family pets, 4 cats, as it had been too difficult for Katie, only 11 years old at the time, to deal with, so they remained where they were. Oh, man. Well, if Katie loved the kitties, at least they were staying with her. But the crazy bitch mother's in the house, too. I don't know. With 4 cats, usually if you have 2 cats, if they're born in the same litter, they're usually very close. You don't want to split them up. But if you had 4 cats and they were from different litters, you could have probably taken the 2 that were close, because it's always 2 cats are going to be close together. I've seen people with 4 cats. You could have taken 2 of them that were the ones that were close together, and they could have had the other ones, and she could visit cats when she comes over. But anyhow. As to custody over Katie, initially this too was amicable as could be. We agreed that it would be her 3 days a week, 1 week, and 4 days the following week, and vice versa, so that child care was 100% equal. This arrangement worked perfectly. It was even that amicable that when I had to pop over to collect some mail or the like, I'd be invited in for an evening meal. It honestly couldn't have been any better. Well, this is all way too good to be true. I'm sure you're probably wondering what happened to Anna. Well, nothing is the short answer. I didn't tell her about anything about the breakup to start with, and the regular contact just seemed to fizzle out. Well, it seemed like that was your relationship before. It was a friends with benefits, never got serious, and here all these years later, nothing changed. She did split up with her husband sometime later, dated a cop for a few years, but that didn't work out, and then settled down and remarried a lovely guy that she is still with now. The reason for me not pursuing this avenue is that I quickly came to the conclusion we were both completely different people than we were in the 90s, and that a platonic relationship was the best for us. We do speak on occasion now, perhaps 2 to 3 times a year, and I've helped her son when he had car trouble one time, and even taken him on a track day as he too is into cars, but that is it. Several months later, after Medusa and I separated, I did try and jump on the dating scene again. Dude, way too fucking soon. I get you hadn't gotten any in all these years, but you gotta still work shit out, get used to your new life and all that. By the middle of 2014, the in thing back then was the internet dating, and one of the major sites was called Plenty of Fish. More like plenty of bullshit. I met a beautiful Chilean lady, Dorothy, 9 years my junior this time, or so she claimed. I didn't question at the time, as having been off the dating scene for 12 years, I had no idea that lying about your age, height, and weight was actually a thing. Come on, man, common sense here. Women are always going to lie about that shit. Come on. In my profile, I made it clear that I was only seeking a friend with benefits type of relationship. You playa. Yeah, because you want to get some ass after all these years. But I did make it obvious that I was financially stable with my own house, etc. Aha! You're putting in the profile, basically you got money, got a house, fully paid for, all that. Oh, you bet your ass. They'd come flocking to you trying to lock you down. Dorothy actually messaged me after our first date, which lasted 12 hours, where we danced the night away, as well as spending most of the day together. I had a brilliant time and was convinced I had landed on my feet. She had a boy practically the same age as Katie, just a bit older, and after only a matter of a month, she convinced me to allow her and her son to move in. Are you fucking kidding me? A single MOM and move in after a month of dating? Smack! Dude, you're a bonehead getting involved with your ex. I mean, you got your daughter out of her. That was good, at least for a while. But now this one, I know you were dying to get some ass, but Jesus, I'm sure there's other chicks in England you could have hooked up with. By a series of gaslighting tactics on her part, great sex also, I might add, that I missed for 7 years, she convinced me that we should be together for the long term. Didn't you list friends with benefits? The first proper red flag was when I found out that she had lied about her age. No, never. First time in history a woman did that. We went to join the local library in the town so she and her son could utilize their facilities, and I went with them for the walk and to provide a utility bill that proved that we lived where we said. They were going through the normal identification process with her, and then she was asked her date of birth. There was a pause, and Dorothy just gave the month and day. The librarian then asked for the year, and she was reluctant to provide this, just repeating the month and day again. The librarian, somewhat perplexed, asked again for the year, and Dorothy said, "Was this necessary?" Obviously, by this time, I had instantly caught on to the fact that there was something amiss, and I obviously knew that she didn't want to state the year, as she had clearly lied to me about her age. So, how old is she? Straight away, I told Dorothy that she needed to give me the year that she was born as part of the identification process, and after trying to persuade the librarian that she didn't need this, she eventually gave her birth year, which was actually the same year as mine, not the 9 years younger that she had claimed. So, the mother of your child is 9 years older than you, and that was confirmed. This chick says she was 9 years younger than you, but she's actually your age. Well, I mean, I guess she at least looked that way, so, dude. And you're going to move her in? And you're fucking crazy. Naturally, the walk home was rather interesting, where I found it very funny that she had lied to me about her age, questioning what else she was lying about. It would turn out to be a lot of things. Her excuse was that the current dating scene, that she had learned that if she put her real age, she found that she got a lot less attention from men of her own age, and more from men a lot older, or not at all. And she didn't want to limit her options. Tough shit, asshole. Anyway, I digress somewhat. It was the start of me dating where things in my life properly started to turn to shit with Medusa. Medusa did not like the fact that I had moved on at all. Uh-oh, here we go. She didn't want you, but nobody else can have you. Or how dare you? Just remember how she got pissed off when she wanted to break up, and he's like, okay. Bearing in mind, this was 4 months after we had separated and things had been completely amicable and with no signs that she wanted to even be with me, and I certainly didn't want to be that in a sexless, loveless relationship with her. But the second she heard I started dating, and this was well before Dorothy actually moved in, things changed immediately. And gentlemen, that is the end of part 1, because it's a long-ass video and I'm not doing the whole thing all at once. Statistically, doesn't do well. But in 2 hours from now, 2 hours, and I promise it'll be 2 hours, you'll hear part 2 where things, oh man, are we going to see the true Medusa, the Gorgon here, of how things go crazy once she realizes he's moving on without her, God forbid. And the tactics she uses, and obviously the warning signs and all that, and inevitably where we are in the present day where we can hopefully help our guy out. So definitely come back. This is a brother in need. I know it's a busy day going on here in the U.S. with the election, but I'm sure a lot of you guys could use a break from all that shit. And so you can watch the show, and hopefully we can help this guy. I'll see you in 2 hours.